Tennis has seen legends. Federer versus Nadal, Nadal versus Djokovic, Djokovic versus Federer, rivalries that defined generations, shaped eras, and gave us matches that will live forever. But today, a new chapter is being written. It's 2021, no one knows it yet, but on the 3rd of November, at the Paris Masters, tennis fans worldwide witnessed the beginning of what is to become one of the most intense rivalries of tennis in recent times. A rivalry that has been raw, electric, and is already establishing itself in the history books. That night, at the momentous face-off in Paris, the match had few to no incredible highlights, at least not until the end, when Carlos Alcaraz, then only at the age of 18, shocked many tennis fans by defeating Jannik Sinner, the player whom most tennis fans at the time alleged to begin the next big thing. The two young warriors, barely in their 20s, would go on to face off 14 more times up to date, picking the interest of many tennis fans, critics, and tennis magnates alike. Through their contrasting styles of play, their dedication to the sport, and their desire to carry the sport on their shoulders, they have grown to become the center of the discussion. Is this the most intense rivalry tennis has ever seen? Welcome to the story of Alcaraz versus Sinner. To understand why this rivalry feels so different, we need to rewind a few years ago. For the past 2 decades, men's tennis has been dominated by 3 titans: Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic. These 3 have been so good, almost no one thought we could witness a glimpse of that kind of competition once again in the sport, at least not until another 20 years. But the tennis gods proved us wrong again. Federer has retired, Nadal is nearing the end, and even though Djokovic is still breaking records, it's only a matter of time until he retires. So it was only fair for the fans, critics, and the sport itself to begin asking the painful questions. Who's next? Who can carry the torch into the new era? Enter Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner. Carlos Alcaraz, a Spaniard, explosive, fearless, and with an impeccable shot-making ability, is a player who blends Nadal's fighting spirit, Federer's flair, and Djokovic's athleticism. All this wrapped in his own unique style. Jannik Sinner, conversely, an Italian, is a clean ball striker, always calm, calculated, with ice in his veins. He never flinches, barely panics, and he dismantles opponents with surgical precision. These two are players with completely different personalities, but together, like when hot and cold winds meet to spur a tornado, when these two clash, something extraordinary is always ignited. And we got to savor the first real taste of this in 2021 during the Paris Masters. It wasn't a final, it wasn't even the biggest stage, but the intensity there was undeniable. Alcaraz, at just 18 years old, faced off against the 20-year-old Sinner. Back and forth they went until Alcaraz prevailed in straight sets. It felt like a passing moment at the time, but oh no, how wrong we were. Because just months later, at Wimbledon, Sinner got his revenge. He stunned Alcaraz in the 4th round, using that calm precision to dismantle the Spaniard's game. Suddenly, it wasn't a one-sided competition, it became personal, but the real explosion came in 2022, the US Open quarterfinals at the Arthur Ashe Stadium, a night match in New York. What unfolded was, simply put, one of the greatest tennis matches ever played. For 5 hours and 15 minutes, the two young stars battled like gladiators. Alcaraz diving for balls, hitting impossible winners. Sinner responding with laser-like ground strokes, absorbing pressure like a brick wall. Before the match, Sinner had the upper hand on their head-to-head with 2 wins in their last 3 meetings. And throughout the match, he showed determination to preserve his 1-match lead. At one point, Sinner was just 1 game away from victory. He had match point. Victory was at arm's length. He could literally taste it. But Alcaraz, he refused to lose. He fought, clawing his way back, saving match point. It was as if his life was on the line. Fight and live was probably what he told himself. And eventually, after 5 excruciating hours, he took the match in 5 brutal sets. The final score: 6-3, 6-7, 6-7, 7-5, 6-3. The match ended at nearly 3 in the morning, the latest finish in US Open history. The crowd was exhausted, but nobody left. They knew they were witnessing something historic. That night, Carlos Alcaraz went on to win the tournament and become the youngest world number 1 in history. At the same time, leveling their head-to-head scores at 2-2. But for many, the real story wasn't the trophy or the head-to-head score. It was the rivalry being brewed. Everyone watching knew this is just the beginning, but even far from the rivalry. What makes this even more special up until this day is the contrast. Alcaraz plays like chaos personified. Likened to the tornado, he drops shots out of nowhere, thunderous forehands, and utilizing lightning speed that makes the court look small. He thrives on adrenaline, putting everything on the line. When he yells, pumps his fists, or rips a winner at full stretch, you can feel the electricity. Sinner, on the other hand, he's Alcaraz antonym, embodied. Always calm, collected, and composed. He doesn't need theatrics, he just steps up to the baseline and unloads ground strokes with laser accuracy and sticks to his plan. At 24, his backhand down the line is already one of the deadliest shots in the game. This rivalry is fire versus ice, emotion versus calculation, risk versus precision. And every time they play, these styles collide in ways that create unforgettable drama. Since that US Open epic, Alcaraz and Sinner have clashed multiple times, each time writing a new chapter. At Indian Wells 2023, Alcaraz beat Sinner on his way to reclaiming world number 1. But weeks later in Miami, Sinner struck back, taking down Alcaraz in straight sets in the semifinals. Then came Wimbledon 2023, where Alcaraz lifted the trophy by beating Djokovic. But who had tested him hardest earlier in the season? Sinner, of course. Every time one of them gains an upper hand, the other answers back. It's a constant push and pull, and the stakes at hand only make this rivalry feel even more intense. Every commentator, every analyst, every fan keeps asking, are they the next big thing? Will they carry tennis into the future? That's pressure most players would crumble under. But so far, for 4 consecutive years, these two have been at it. Alcaraz embraces it. He talks about wanting to win 20 Grand Slams. Sinner, on the other hand, he shrugs it off. He says he just wants to improve step by step, but his game is much more direct and distinct compared to his subtle words. He wants to dominate and be the best. Together, they're not just fighting for titles, they're fighting for a place to shape the future of tennis itself. We've seen such rivalries before. Sampras versus Agassi, Federer versus Nadal, Nadal versus Djokovic. But there are 4 reasons why Alcaraz versus Sinner feels different. Number 1, age and timing. Both of them are so young and their careers are just starting. We're literally watching the very beginning of something that could last a decade or more. Contrast in personalities. Alcaraz wears his heart on his sleeves. Sinner keeps his cards closed. The emotional stakes are visible every time they step on court, and this even makes the fans identify with their differences in personalities on a deeper level. Number 3, neither dominates the other. Although Alcaraz has dominated since 2024, winning 8 of the last 9 meetings, their head-to-head is tight, with Sinner bagging a win this year at the Wimbledon. He might just be set to plot his return. In short, with these two in the picture, you never know who's going to win. Number 4, with the Big 3 era ending, the world is desperate for a new narrative, and this rivalry delivers exactly that. The Alcaraz chaos meets the Buddhist monk focus and calm of Sinner, and the fans are eating it all up. Nevertheless, at the end of it all, it's not entirely just about who wins head-to-head. It's about who will define this new era of sport. So where does this go from here? If history is any guide, rivalries like this don't just fade, they only escalate. Imagine them meeting in more Grand Slam finals. Imagine the stakes rising each year, the storylines building, Alcaraz chasing slam number 10, Sinner standing in his way, or Sinner finally overtaking Alcaraz for world number 1. Every time they clash, the legends grow. Every time they push each other, they push the sport forward. And here's the beauty, we don't know how it all ends. Will Alcaraz grow and become the dominant force, or will Sinner rise to surpass him? Or will they trade blows for years like their predecessors, locking themselves in a career-long battle? Regardless of the outcome, one thing is clear. This is the rivalry of our time. When Federer and Nadal first played, nobody knew what it would become. Same with Djokovic joining the mix later. The thing with rivalries like this is that they aren't birthed instantly. They are brutally brewed, savored, and forged slowly but surely in the fire of competition. And with Alcaraz and Sinner, we are witnessing just that. History will surely remember Federer. It will also remember Nadal as well as Djokovic. But will history also remember this? Alcaraz versus Sinner, the most intensive rivalry tennis has seen since the greats.